Hi, everybody. I'm Don Meissner, and I'm here to talk with my great buddy Russ Eddy about what it's like to love fishing so much and really not be able to go fishing right now in the time of the coronavirus. So, Russ, I'm really glad to be able to share this with you today, or for us to share this with everybody else. You've always told me that the next best thing to going fishing is being able to tell and listen to stories about fishing.
There's nothing I like better really than nothing I like better than fishing, and sharing fishing with you, telling stories with you is one of the great pleasures. And you and I talked a little bit before we tried this venture, and Dave Swanson's helping us make it happen as well. But we just decided that let's get together and tell fishing stories. Since we can't get together and go fishing, everybody loves to tell fishing stories, so let's try some.
Well, I know a great place to start, and I want everybody to realize that, Russ, you and I became such great friends because of fishing and because of the very specific and really special fishing that we have up here in this area, and that is muskie fishing in the tributaries. And so while a few years ago you had never caught a muskie, now I look on you as our muskie guru of the area. And I'm thinking back to this one day that you were showing me the results of your great fishing day of figure eighting for muskies. Do you remember that day?
I remember that day very well. It was a special day.
Well, on that day, you and Dave Swanson actually had the cameras with you, and you were shooting video of your experience. And that video has become one of the most popular videos when Linda and I go to sports shows to show people about the great fishing around here. And what I love showing them is my buddy Russ getting all excited and ready to set the hook as he figure eights for a muskie. So let's look at that now. And I want you to tell people more about what we're looking at.
That day, the video we're about to see was the culmination of a really amazing day. What you're seeing is the fifth fish caught and released that day. And Dave had thrown his lure right up on the bank, and he had a wake. He had a fish come out. And this is what I think we see Dave pointing at it right now. And he's pointing at the fish, showing the fish follow the lure out. And the fish just followed the lure out from the bank, and that's all it did. And then it sort of sat there. And then Dave gave me a shot, and I threw my lure out.
I see it in the water. I see it in the water. I see you figure eighting, which never works for me. So
that was such a thrill, Don. I can't tell you, it was amazing. And if you saw my body language, and I didn't know it at the time. Oh, this is a good look at my body language. I didn't know what was going on in terms of my body language. My eyes were locked on that fish, and I could see it follow. Watch me just jerk as I see the fish right there. I can tell it's behind me. And then I drop my tip down below the surface, and it's a half a figure eight. And that fish, for whatever reason, it just decided to attack, and the fight was on.
Well, Russ, a lot of people never get a chance to fish for muskies, and it's a lot of people's dream to catch them, and they've heard about figure eighting. But I think we should tell a little bit about why that works. First of all, muskies are notorious for following something and trying to figure out if they're going to hit or not. And they'll follow it all the way back to the boat, still waiting for something to happen. So that's when you come into play, and you do this technique that all of a sudden changes the motion of the lure right there under the boat, and it seems to be a trigger to get them to strike.
Muskie fishing is such a learning curve, like anything else. And I came here 8 years ago now, and Dave took me out for my first muskie hunt, and ever since then, from day one until even last year, on my most recent muskie hunt, which was almost a full season ago, every time I learned something new. And I had heard a little bit throughout the early days, I had heard about figure eighting, and I took the advantage of YouTube, and I watched some guys do it on YouTube, and most of those were you could see they were out on a lake, and they were lake fishing, and they had these big rods, and they just drop that rod deep into the water and do a figure eight, and it was playing around with it. And I fished for muskies so much, and the beauty of muskie fishing is the way they present themselves. and they present themselves in so many different ways, and they attack in so many different ways. And when I'd get a follow, well, I'd start just, and more often than not, incorrectly, until maybe I got it right. Maybe I learned through a process that I drop my tip below the water surface early. As soon as I see a follow, my tip is down, regardless of whether I think that fish is going to do a figure eight or not. And as it comes to the boat, I'll make that figure eight. And you know what I love just as much as having them attack on a figure eight is having them turn behind me. And they don't always do that, but if they do, it's just so much. It's so amazing to me. You asked me at the beginning of this question why they do it. I have no idea. I mean, the motion, they don't always, and the fact is that sometimes they do. And when you can get, I've had a fish virtually follow a figure eight until it tired out, and we had no intention of striking. Just out of curiosity, it was just going to keep turning behind my figure eights. And to see a fish do that is pretty much just as or more amazing than what you all just saw when that fish attacks.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a big smile on your face. And let me ask you, now we've been going through, we mean everybody. Everybody in this country has been going through a lot of stress, a lot of wonder, a lot of fears. And how does reflecting and telling the story of muskie fishing and thinking about being back there on the water help you deal with some of these other uncertainties?
Well, you said the final word in your question just really wraps up really the harshness of this whole situation, which is uncertainty. I mean, that's what we're all dealing with, and it's uncertainty no matter what the question is about this whole thing. No one really can be certain of anything, really, and that's why this is so difficult. And to be able to look, I'm not going to lie, to be able to see that, it makes it even harder. I mean, in some ways, I wish I could be out there and on the water and fishing. But in solidarity for all those frontline workers, and in solidarity for, you know what, when I go into the grocery store and I see grocers on the front line putting my food, stacking my food up, and I know they're putting themselves more at risk than I am staying home, they're my heroes now too. So I'm not going fishing in solidarity for all those folks that are really sacrificing a lot more than I am. And I'll stick it out. The more we all stick it out, maybe the faster we'll all be out there fishing again.
Well, that's all of our hopes, and I can't wait to do that again. But in the meantime, we still have our memories, we still have our desires, and we can still see that water. And the next time you and I get together, I want to explore more about what makes muskie fishing so special and why you would become such a muskie fanatic. So until the next time, folks, this is Don Meissner and Eddy wishing you all a great day.